good night, it'll be alright in the long run.
To Melbourne's Community Radio, 837 3CR.
Here we are in the 3CR, and we're recording bits and pieces of the program. I guess some people probably labour under the misconception that we are live to air. We are not live to air. This is a recording, and it's not being recorded right now. But yeah, Di. So introduce a poem and then read it. Okay.
Okay. So.
But let me start the recording because I haven't actually started it yet.
Okay. Nice to be at 3CR, and I'm going to be reading a poem from my new book, The Days Pass Without Name. My name is Di Cousins, and I'm one of the producers of the 3CR spoken word program. So I've got a couple of poems I thought I'd read, and the first one is about homelessness, which is amazingly a huge problem in Melbourne these days and around Australia. And I don't see anyone addressing this issue in politics, and it's something that we have to do. It's just absolutely crucial. So this poem is called Car Woman. I saw the woman who lives in a car today. She was probably 60 years old. Short, light brown hair, glasses, clothes of no colour. She sat in the front seat and was reading the paper. The seat beside her and the back seat are full of things. Some books borrowed from the university library and a disability parking permit are on the dashboard. On the seats, back and front, there is stuff. I don't know what it is. It looks like no one has dug all the way to the bottom in a long time. There are large boxes wrapped in plastic on the roof rack too. Just enough space in the front for her to sit and hold the wheel and press the pedals. Every other corner is full up. The car's been there a few days. Small red with battered sides of different colours and a national flag stuck in the rack. It's a shame when the country lets people fall through the cracks. One day I guess she'll be found, still in the front seat but no longer breathing. And the rest of us will look at the car and say, just why were you waving that flag?
That was the voice of Di Cousins, one of my co-presenters of 3CR Spoken Word. I am Santo Cazzati, and I co-founded this program almost 10 years ago with the late Rhonda Jankovic. And we are currently making this program in the presence of Ken Smeaton, who has for many years been producing a video archive of us grassroots poets here in Melbourne. And he's actually, you can't see this on air of course, listening to us on air, but he's actually videoing us making this recording. And I'd actually like to ask Ken to read a poem of his.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, I froze it, and so you can collect yourself and...
okay,
yeah.
well, Di, if you could...
Do you want to introduce it, or do you just want to, just say whatever you want to, and then do the poem. Okay.
Well, good morning, Di, Santo. It's wonderful to be in 3CR. I mean, 40 years ago, I was here running a program with a woman called Kate Ahern, called Writers Radio. And yes, it was just a wonderful part of the early days of the poetry scene. And 3CR was such a supporter of all of us underground or marginalised artists. So it's wonderful to be back. I've got one that's being 3CR. I thought I'd read something quite political. It's called The President. In a capitalist democracy, here's a political reality. In a democracy, people forge their own belief, chaos or success. There's no guarantee, folks. It's numbers. Win or lose, it's numbers. TV, celebrity, billionaire, balloons the hopes of all the dopes. Hey, it's media. Hey, it's democracy, and here's not one of them. Believe me, he says, they lie, because I tell you so. The out-counted losers cry revolt. How did it come to this? They tweet, teetering on the edge given in their constitution, the right to bear arms, to die for liberty. Bring it on, taunt the president's fans. We've got the NRA. Scoffing at news media he doesn't own. Facts are a conspiracy. Promises make easy money. Sanctify the Second Amendment to the righteous gun voter. What do lies, smears and cynical innuendo garner? Votes in the box from the like-minded, relaxed as the winning side from the go. The notorious president tweets his own rules. Don't believe history, it's fake news. He can tweet what he likes. He's got armor skin. He has an address in everybody's pocket. A clever billionaire, one of the money men. The enemy chides. Sure, Russia can do business. We'll back you behind the scenes. Be a crazy salesman, Mr. President. Show us your wares. Banking his rich lunacy is the answer. He who dares. Confident he has the problems nailed. Confident he's not one of them. Confident as a Republican with a gun.
The voice of Ken Smeaton. So then, over to you, Di. You've got another one there.
Thank you, Santo. So I've got another poem I'd like to read. Now this comes about through my engagement with the refugees on Manus Island over the past 3 or 4 years, and we used to communicate by secret phones when the phones were contraband, and they would be hiding them in their room, or they'd be hiding them in the garden or something. Then at a certain point the Papua New Guinea government said that actually imprisoning the refugees on Manus Island was illegal, because according to the Papua New Guinean constitution, you cannot imprison people who have committed no crime and who are not accused of committing a crime. So then they were allowed to have their phones, which was good, and for various reasons they've remained imprisoned in the camp. It used to be part of the naval base, and then they pushed them out of that very violently at the end of 2017, and the refugees were forced into other camps in the town of Lorengau. Now, while they were on the naval base, there was an incident which was where they were actually being attacked by the Navy with rifles, and the drunken sailors decided just to go shooting the prisoners. And because they were in this naval base, they were in a partition section behind a wall which had been sequestered from the naval base. So it happened that during my daily communication with the people on Manus Island, I received a message saying they're shooting at us, and so I actually rang them up and we had a conversation, and sometime later I wrote this poem. So the title of the poem is Good Friday Shooting on Manus Island 2017. I wasn't there when the refugees were kidnapped by Australia's Immigration Department. I wasn't there when Australia built a detention centre beside a naval base, squatting like colonists on Manus Island. I wasn't there when the expert panel decided that transportation to Pacific Islands would be an effective way of stopping the boats. I wasn't there to watch the Manusians grow tired of the refugees, see their vegetables become expensive, their soccer pitch occupied by foreigners. I wasn't there when a man was killed in the night and 2 locals were charged and convicted, and 2 white men who joined in the killing were sent back to Australia and not charged for their crimes. I wasn't there when a local barmaid was gang raped by Australian staff who went home and escaped the jurisdiction. I wasn't there when the great tradition was invented that white men are not subject to black men's courts. I wasn't there When Australia handed over dollars in brown paper bags to Papuan politicians who were paid to turn tricks. I wasn't there on Good Friday when the refugees and PNG sailors got into a fight about soccer, whose turn it was to play footy, and the game was suddenly over. But I was there, on the phone in the night when drunken sailors came back with their guns, stalking and shooting from outside the fence, the bullets going through walls and doors, men lying low on their beds or running in circles with nowhere to hide. I was listening to the running, the shouting, Farsi and English, the chaos and fear that this was the end. I was there for the farewell from the war zone, and though the sailors stopped shooting and no one was killed, I carried the moment I thought they would die. And I'd like to introduce my old buddy Ken Smeaton to read another poem. Now Ken Smeaton's been a part of the Melbourne poetry scene for the last 40 years, and he's still a very active contributor, still writing new work. And one of the ways that Ken has been contributing more recently has been through a website called RealPoetryMovies, which is on YouTube, and you can find it if you Google Kenneth Graham Smeaton YouTube. And in this website he's actually recording on film all of the poets in Melbourne in live performance. So it's a really special archive of a huge range of poets who are around Melbourne, and very valuable resource. So Ken, you're going to read us another poem.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Di. It has been a terrific thing to be able to carry on with the films, and they're short, 5 to 10 minutes, and I always use the text of the poem, of the poet's text. I hope that in the future they'll see what a great contribution that poets, the unpaid art form, the unregarded art form, has made to our great culture. Anyway, this is a little poem about the seasons, probably influenced by Vivaldi one night. Fellow travellers, young spring, oh so welcome, first-born spring spreads her kisses, warmer, longer days caress each shorter night, straining leaf to bud to the sun's wishes, raining delight on Mother Nature's birthright. The hot seductress, seducer summer lends her green shade, ripens the flesh, the fruit, the seed and beer, done making hay, lovers splash and play, naked laughter closes each glorious day. Aunt Autumn, middle-aged autumn, a glorious sight, briefly, invites passion, shedding pretension to fecundity. Autumn dictates fashions, dine her now, no delay, her colours will soon enough fade and dry away. The cold bloke, old man winter determined to keep us cold, the log fire burning, bed cover double fold, stoked the coals, born the child, kept the snowman at the gate, to be warm all in vain, the cold bloke stays long too late.
What a beauty.
Yeah, lovely, nice work.
Oh, I love old-fashioned models and allegory.
Yeah.
So this is a special program of 3CR where we're talking to Ken Smeaton, and we as the producers of the program are also contributing some of our own work. And Ken is recording this program for his Real Poetry Movies YouTube site. So if you're interested, you can see some of us on camera at a later time and find out what we look like. So Ken, now you were telling me off mic that you used to write political poems, but you don't particularly these days because you find it a bit frustrating that things don't seem to change, or they're not having it, poems aren't having an impact. What do you think about that?
Well, actually, I still do write them, and I do get the frustration, you know, we're banging our head against the wall. And probably my favourite style is the old-fashioned allegory with rhyme, but one can't help write the political poems like The President I read before. It strikes me that in the past, our favourite poets that are still loved weren't all wealthy, weren't all healthy or sane, but we love their poetry. And here we are in Melbourne with this wonderful open mic tradition. Not all are wealthy, healthy and sane, but they have the opportunity to express themselves in a beautiful ancient form that is old and modern at the same time. So I'm proud to be in a part of an art form that may not be commercial, but I think it has great benefit not only to its practitioners but to the listener and reader.
Yes, and I think that's one of the special things about Melbourne poetry is that there is this open door policy whereby anyone who comes in is welcome at most gigs to read their poem or even the poem of somebody else on the open mic. And it's not something that I was aware of when I was growing up, that there was this thing called an open mic. It's something I discovered when I became a part of Melbourne poetry. Now, Santo, what do you think? Let's go back to this question about politics and poetry. How do you feel, does poetry make a difference to politics?
Yeah, was that W.H. Auden who said poetry doesn't change anything or doesn't change the world or something like that? I think it was a rhetorical question. And well, I'm tending to think more and more that it doesn't really change things very much, like in the here and now. But it is important, and I think I'm starting to think in these last couple of years that the reason it's important, in addition to everything that Ken just said there about, you know, the open mic and us feeling good and us being able to express ourselves live in the moment and meet other people and bond with them as a result of that, but in addition to all of that, where I think maybe it really might just matter is when we're all dead and gone. Posterity. I'm really quite sort of obsessed with posterity and immortality, and maybe that's why Ken is doing the video archive, and that's definitely why I'm doing, or we at 3CR Spoken Word are doing the permanent podcast archive.
And just while you're here, let's just talk about the permanent archive. Now that's on Podbean, isn't it? So if people are interested, they should Google 3CR Spoken Word Podbean, and then they'll find their way to the website.
We've got about 140 episodes already on that site, and it really is an archive of all the people that Ken and you, Di, have been talking about. You know, somehow we managed to preserve their voices, but not their looks. That's Ken's department. You're going to immortalise the way that we look, dress, act and move.
Well, I think we're a motley crew, to be truthful.
Warts and all.
You've been listening to a very special edition of the program, which we've also recorded on film with Kenneth Smeaton. And today you've heard the voices of myself, Di Cousins, Santo Cazzati. Santo, would you like to say
This is the voice of Santo Cazzati.
and Kenneth Smeaton.
And I thank you both and the whole crew at 3CR for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you all for coming in, and it's been a very exciting 3CR Spoken Word program, and see you again next time.
So what's that, it's about 21 minutes or something?
22, 29.